They prepared two pitches. So normally the test strip that we play on is more towards the middle, and they've been struggling with pace the last season and a half. I mean, you saw the one day it was really slow when we played there. So they prepared another pitch, was probably a little more grass on it, and hoping that it will have a little bit more pace. So we hope that's the case, but the general last season and a half tells me that it's not going to have a lot of pace. So expecting a little bit of movement, but it'll be slow. Yeah, I think if you look at a general Durban wicket or Kingsmead wicket, it allows for a spinner always. As I said, in a perfect world, when you're playing against a subcontinent team, the attack that we have in our seaming attack, or the firepower that in your seam attack, you'd like to have the option of possibly going in with four seamers. But the nature of the history tells me that you would need to go in with a spinner. Yeah, there's a few options on the tables. That's one of them. Other option would be to look at someone like a Vian Mulder as a number 7 and being your fourth seamer. So those are the two options we're looking at as well. There's benefit in both. Lots of discussions. It's already taken place, and it's quite difficult to still get exactly what we're trying to get from it. But there's, as I said, there's a lot of positives on both sides. The one team has got a lot of fire in the bowling department, possibly a little bit of one batter light from a balance point of view, but extreme firepower on your bowling. And then the other side of that will be to have a nice balanced side. Obviously Björn hasn't played a lot of test cricket, but the team certainly, our thinking is moving towards a team that has not always the option of either four seamers or a spinner. We would like to have both options, and that only really comes into play when you have an all-rounder at 7 and him. So moving forward towards with the test team, that's our thinking moving forward. Whether that will happen tomorrow, I'm not sure yet. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, there's a lot of value in Björn also possibly then leaving the team and going back and playing one-day cricket for the Lions, because ultimately our eyes are still on World Cup prep, and he's still very much in the picture. So yeah, there's positives in both decisions. I think for myself and the coach, we're comfortable with having almost like our eyes on both. But for the test team itself, yes, there's a few one-day players in the test team, but it's important that the test team themselves, their focus doesn't get distracted. Making sure that everything they do is geared towards us as a test team trying to get back to number 1. That's been our journey for, as I said, for the last 2 or 3 years, when initially we started at number 7. And I think if we win the next 2, we either number 1 or 1 point away from number 1. So there's a massive driving force for the test team itself. But as I said, for myself and the coach, it's still important to, I mean, it's not, you can't completely forget about the thinking and the planning that still goes into that. Yeah, definitely. As I said, it's just a case of there's been a lot of subcontinent teams after each other. We've had India, Pakistan, and now Sri Lanka, and when you play the subcontinent teams, obviously you want to try and expose them with your pace. So that's been harsh on Kesh because he's done nothing wrong. He's actually bowling really well. So we always try and have him in the starting 11 because he's a world-class spinner. And that's why I said the thinking is for the test team to move towards having both your three best teamers, whoever they will be at that time on form, and then also your spinner. So that's the plan for the test team. But whether that will happen tomorrow that still needs to be decided. I mean, they've had a tough time, obviously, in Australia now, and there's been a lot of things happening away from their team. So I suppose it's not ideal for them. But I will always respect opposition that we play against, whether it's a Sri Lankan team that's lost or whether we're playing an Ireland or Afghanistan team. But for me, our preparation doesn't it doesn't change. It is a obvious cliche, but that's something I speak to the team about a lot of the times when I feel like we are a little bit down in our intensity in terms of preparation, to make sure that you give whoever you're playing the respect that they deserve, because there is very good cricketers in their team. And also when they beat us 2-0 in their home conditions, which hurt us quite a bit. And it's important for us to make sure we do exactly the same and keep them under pressure. Make sure that they don't start the series well. 2 test series is short. Like, you may need to make sure you start well. And if we can do that, possibly their breaking point will be a little bit sooner than it will always be, because of all the stuff that's happening away from the game. No, as I said, that's something I've spoken about towards the team. In practice, especially when we join back together as a test team, there's a lot of distractions. World Cup is one of them. Playing a team that's not as on top of their game as they would like. There's a lot of things happening in their camp, but for me, to make sure that we are aware of that as a team and switched on. So when the toss goes up, we make sure that we're treating them with the same amount of respect we would do at the top test teams in the world. It's never fun. It's never fun when we have those middle strips, because they're always a little bit underprepared. So when you go towards the back, it's all a bit better. But they don't bowl a lot at the back. They bowl a lot in the middle there. So if you want to face them, you need to go front up to a big challenge. But that's something we pride ourselves on as a batting unit, and I've said that a lot of times, that yes, the conditions are not always favourable for our batting unit. We want to make sure we graft to get totals on the board, because we know if we can graft a score together, our bowling attack has got enough firepower to roll the opposition out for leg. It does become a point which you mentioned. It is something that if you played a team that's got a very, very, call it a fast bowling attack, generally your tail enders doesn't like pace. So if you're playing a team that's got a lot of pace in their armoury, then going in with a batter light would be a high risk, because your tail will struggle to hang around, especially when there's pace around. So because there's not massive pace in the Sri Lankan team, it is something that you can speak about. I don't think we'll consider a 5-bowler attack against someone that's got, like I said, express pace. But we are considering that option because of the medium pace. There's a lot of medium paces playing in the team, and obviously losing the spirit in the spinning department in Rangiera. He's not there anymore, so there's a lot of experience there that's missing. And also Pereira is not on the side, which has been a good bowler for them as well. So that becomes very hard. That's why the decision is so tricky. It's good for us to have options. It's the same thing with the one-day team. I feel like the last while there's been a lot more options in terms of selecting both Test and ODI teams, but it's good. It keeps everyone on their toes. Dale Steyn. He's an amazing bowler. But also now you've got Durban that's bowling really well, taking 25 wickets, so that makes selection a lot harder. If it was a normal case in point, you'd say, listen, there's no comparison. Dale Steyn is Dale Steyn, but now Durban has bowled so well, you have to look at what's best for your team at the moment. And if you can't make a decision, if you feel like both of them is going to add so much value to your team, then obviously you've got the other side of the coin, which means leaving a all-round or a batter out.